Good morning. Welcome to this February worship service from First Parish Church of Kingston, Massachusetts. I am the Reverend Monica Jacobson Tennyson. I serve this church as its minister. I use she, her pronouns. And I am beyond delighted that we have as a worship co-leader with us this morning, our UU musician, singer, songwriter, Peter Mayer, who is coming to us live from Minnesota through the magic of technology. And so we are going to begin the service with music from Pete.
Well, thank you, Monica. It's wonderful to be with you all. Yeah. This is a song inspired by growing up Catholic. I am a UU now and have been for many years, but I'm grateful for growing up Catholic, and I felt like it gave me sort of a sacramental sense of the world. So here's a song inspired by that. When I was a boy, each week on Sunday we would go to church and pay attention to the priest. He would read the holy word, consecrate the holy bread, and everyone would kneel and bow. Today the only difference is everything is holy now. Everything is holy now. And when I was in Sunday school, we would learn about the time Moses split the sea in two. Jesus made the water wine. And I remember feeling sad. Miracles don't happen still, but now I can't keep track, 'cause everything's a miracle. Everything's a miracle. Wine from water is not so small, but an even better magic trick is that anything is here at all. So the challenging thing becomes not to look for miracles, but finding where there isn't one. When holy water was rare at best, barely wet my fingertips, but now I have to hold my breath like I'm swimming in a sea of it. It used to be a world half there, heaven's second-rate hand-me-down, but I walk it with a reverent air, 'cause everything is holy now. Everything is holy now. Read a questioning child's face, say it's not a testament, that'd be very hard to say. See another new morning come, say it's not a sacrament, I tell you that it can't be done. This morning outside I stood, saw a little red-winged bird shining like a burning bush, singing like a scripture verse. It made me want to bow my head. I remember when church let out how things have changed since then. Everything is holy now. Used to be a world half there, heaven's second-rate hand-me-down. But I walk it with a reverent air, 'cause everything is holy now.
Thank you, Pete. So lovely. That is one of my favorites of Pete's songs, so I was delighted to have it in the service today. I would like to invite you to join in lighting a chalice with me with these words adapted from the work of my colleague, the Reverend Kelly Weissman Asbruth Jackson. What is this fire? A match, a wick, a flame? And what is this place? Or today we might say, what are these places? Wood and stone and glass, electrons and cables and devices. Yet here we have gathered in these places before this flame, making each holy by our presence here together. Come, let us worship. I am going to hand it over to our Director of Family Ministry, Jen Shattuck, to share with us A Time for All Ages.
Hi, everybody. It's so good to see your faces again. And it's such a pleasure to have Peter with us. Truly a dream come true for me. So thank you, Peter, for being here. This morning, I want to tell you a story about Hosea Bellew. And that might be a name that sounds familiar to you. And that is because our church is in the former Bellew Channing district, which is named in part for him. Hosea Bellew was a Universalist minister and one of the founders of Universalism in the United States. But he wasn't always a minister. Once, like all of us, he was a kid. He was a kid who loved mud. He loved it. He loved it when it was soft and squishy and when it was thick and sticky. He loved that he could jump in puddles and make mud pies. He loved mud, but not everyone in his family loved mud. His older sister, who did the laundry, really didn't like scrubbing all the mud off his clothes. And his other sister, whose job it was to keep all the kids clean in the family, really didn't like having to draw all those baths for little Hosea. So his sisters went to their father and said, "Father, please, please, can you tell him to stop playing in the mud? It would make things a lot easier for us." So Hosea's father went and said, "Hosea, you really shouldn't be playing in the mud. Can you please not?" And like all children, Hosea liked to ask questions. And so he said, "Why?" And his father said, "Well, just as we try to live a good life and to be kind to others, we also try to stay as clean as we can." And Hosea said, "All right." And after that day, although it was hard, he did his best to stay clean. He stopped stomping in the mud puddles and he stopped making mud pies, but sometimes there was still mud. And sometimes, no matter what he did, it still got on his clothes. So his sisters went to their father again and said, "Please, please, he's still muddy. Can you please tell him not to play in the mud. And Hosea's father started to speak to him somewhat sternly and say, Hosea, you really must not play in the mud. You must stop. And Hosea said, I tried. Are you very angry at me? And Hosea's father said, I'm disappointed. I'm a little angry, but I'm mostly disappointed. And Hosea said, do you still love me? And his father said, I will always love you. No matter how muddy you ever get, no matter what you ever do, I will still love you. And Hosea said, even if I get really muddy? And his father said, yes, even if you get really muddy. And he said, even if it covers me from my head to my toes and it's all in my hair and it's in my eyelashes and it's just everywhere in between my toes and everything, will you still love me then? And his father said, even then I will still love you. And Hosea said, all right, I will remember and I will try. And he did stay clean most of the time. And he grew up remembering that this is what he had promised to do. And he stopped liking mud so much after a while, but he still liked to ask questions like, why? And when he became a teenager, he started to read the Bible for himself and he started to go to different churches than the Baptist church his family went to. And in his questioning, he came to this idea of universalism, the idea that God is love, that God and love are one and the same, and that everybody is held in this love. This was not what he had grown up being taught, and his father really could not believe that this is the belief system that he had come to. And he said, I don't understand. How could you believe this? And Hosea Bellew told his father, I believe this because I remember what you taught me when I was small. I believe that even if people make mistakes, if they get muddy or messy or say unkind things or do things that they shouldn't do, they will be loved by God the way that you have loved me. And this was the foundation of universalism in the United States and the foundation of our Unitarian Universalist Church. Love, that we are held in this love, no matter what, all of us, every person in love. And I believe Pete has a song that speaks to this. So I'll pass it over to him.
Thank you, Jen, for that story. Well, this song is called "What If Love," and it has a part for you all at home. I understand you may opt out of singing at home. It's different than singing in church. However, the part is there for you if you want to. It's very simple. You don't need to read any words. The chorus of the song goes like this. Here's my part. What if love, what if love, what if love is all it was? Like that. And your part is sort of an echo to the first two lines. So I go, what if love? You go, what if love? What if love? What if love? And then we sing together the third line. What if love is all it was? Try one more time. What if love? What if love? What if love? What if love? What if love is all it was? Okay. Here we go. Science has revealed at last what happened in the distant past, back in the beginning of time. But from and what the cosmos came back before the great Big Bang. It's finding more hard to describe. Could be anybody's guess. So is it crazy to suggest, what if love, what if love, what if love, what if love, what if love is all it was? What if love, what if love, what if love, what if love, what if love is all it was? And what if that love still sings, is still alive in everything, moving through the whole universe, rising in the light and dark, hiding in the smallest part, burning like a flame that always burns, like the atoms, like the air, invisible but everywhere. What if love, what if love, what if love, what if love, what if love is all it was? What if love, what if love, what if love, what if love is all it was? What if love were the organizing force by which the beauty of the world emerged, that turned the particles and the molecules and living cells and redwood trees and bees and birds? And what if to act on love's behalf, to practice kindness, was the most natural thing of all? Then when we feel undone or sick because we've been spun around on the wheel of despair, we could just breathe it in, reach for that source again, reach out to what's already there. The mystery from whence we came, just for a song, let's give it a name. What if love, what if love, what if love, what if love, what if love is all it was? What if love, what if love, what if love is all it was?
I'm just going to make applause hands at Pete for a little bit. I love that one. So today, Pete and I are going to have a conversation as the sermon. So there will be some music involved, and there will be some reflection and some story, and we're going to pass it back and forth between the two of us. And I will start. In the Soul Matters program, which we use, the theme for February is beloved community. And that is a phrase that gets used, but not often defined. So I am starting with this question: what is beloved community? Many of us might know the expression from the work and the life of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. As far as we can tell, the term was first coined in the early 20th century by the philosopher theologian Josiah Royce, a white man who founded the Fellowship of Reconciliation. And Reverend Dr. King was a member of the Fellowship of Reconciliation. And he is the one whose preaching then made this term beloved community widely known. One definition comes from Paula Cole Jones, a Black woman who is a Unitarian Universalist religious professional. Paula Cole Jones has served on district staff and regional staff and has a lot of wisdom about Unitarian Universalism and the way that we are together. She says we like to use this term, and her definition is: beloved community happens when people of diverse racial, ethnic, educational, class, gender, sexual orientation, backgrounds, and gender identities come together in an interdependent relationship of love, mutual respect, and care that seeks to realize justice within the community and in the broader world. Now, to me, this sounds pretty deeply rooted in our universalist heritage. This idea of unchanging, unfailing love for everyone. In its earliest articulation, it was framed as universal salvation, the belief that all souls go to heaven. And historically, this wasn't an easy sell. If you go back to America of the 18th and 19th centuries, you see a lot of skepticism because it was widely believed that the idea of hell, the threat of damnation, those were tools for maintaining the social order. They would keep people behaving in lawful ways because they were afraid of consequences in the afterlife. For some folks, universalists were seen as untrustworthy, almost as untrustworthy as people who were atheists, because there was this foundational belief that people required the threat of God sending them to hell to make them behave. And universalists like Hosea Bellew challenged this belief. Jen told us the beautiful story about Hosea Bellew's childhood and how that became a window into understanding unfailing love for him. Bellew also believed that when you have that foundation underneath you, it inspires you to act in different ways in relationship to others. So when Hosea Bellew grew up and became a Universalist preacher, he was a circuit rider, and he traveled from church to church preaching. One day he was riding his circuit along with a Baptist minister, and they were talking and they were arguing theology with each other as they traveled, because of course they didn't have phones with Spotify. They had to make their own entertainment. And at one point the Baptist looked over and said, "Brother Bellew, if I were a Universalist and feared not the fires of hell, I could hit you over the head, steal your horse and saddle, and ride away, and I'd still go to heaven." Hosea Bellew replied, "Sir, if you were a Universalist, the idea would never occur to you." He was rooted in this idea that people who know themselves to be held deeply in love don't need the fear of consequences to inspire them to be in right relationship. Being deeply rooted in love can help us be inspired to live that love in our relationships with others. Still, this idea of afterlife consequences continues to be pretty deeply rooted in the broader American culture. And even those of us who have been practicing Unitarian Universalism may trip sometimes over a little struggle with the idea that everybody gets a happy ending. We might ask ourselves, even the people who did awful things, even the people who've been rude to us, even that guy? And this is a natural human struggle. And Pete has a song that invites us into exploring this idea a little more.
Yes, well, this, I have to say, again, I grew up Catholic, and so we Catholics in other religions, like many other religions, well, we were quite good at determining that we were the chosen ones. We were the ones that were going to be saved, and unfortunately, not everyone else. So, but when I first encountered the idea of universalism, I actually thought it was quite humorous, and not because it's a silly idea, but because I was imagining people showing up in heaven expecting to only find their folks up there, and sort of getting an awakening that holy smokes, everybody is here, and probably feeling just a little bit disappointed. And so I thought that was really a funny idea. And so anyway, that's what this song is about. I have to confess, I have no idea what heaven may be like. I don't really speculate on such things. But this song is meant to be more metaphorical than anything, called When I Died. All right. When I died, I went to heaven, which wasn't such a big surprise. I was among the saved and chosen. We gave each other a high five. But then a number of our brethren looked around and then declared we weren't the only ones in heaven. Everybody else was there. All the fools and pleasure seekers, all the cheaters and what's worse, all the wayward disbelievers with whom I had to share the earth. I will admit I was confused then and didn't think that it was fair. Then when I finally got to heaven, everybody else was there. Then the Almighty came and found us, those of us who just arrived, shone a blazing light around us and looked at us with loving eyes and said, I'd never throw you in the inferno. That would be cruel and just plain wrong. So welcome all to life eternal. Welcome all to heaven's throng. I'd never throw you in the inferno. That would be cruel and just plain wrong. So welcome all to life eternal. Now can y'all just get along?
Thank you, thank you. Now, you might have guessed that as we move into the 20th century and now into the 21st century, universalism became less preoccupied with the idea of what happens after this life and more concerned with the idea of heaven on earth. Universalists in the early 20th century preached that heaven and hell are names for the conditions we create for each other in this life. We can choose to include or to exclude people. We can choose to care about the welfare of others or to disregard them. There's a poem that was written in that time that gets quoted quite a lot. Edwin Markham, a white male poet who lived from 1852 to 1940, published a little piece called Outwitted that goes like this. He drew a circle that shut me out. Heretic, rebel, a thing to flout. But love and I had the wit to win. We drew a circle that took him in. Markham was a universalist, as you may have guessed, and his poem very nicely describes radical welcome and inclusiveness. And as usual, poetry gets right to the heart of the matter, but it does not give us step-by-step instructions about how to get there. It's a little bit like if you've ever bought something from IKEA that requires assembly, You know how the stuff at IKEA comes with drawings that are supposed to help you build things. And when they make sense to you, they really make sense. Like a poem that just clicks. But when they don't, you just stare at them and maybe you get frustrated. Maybe at first glance you thought you knew where they were taking you, but you seem to be missing a step between here and there. So we can't stop our conversation here with this idea that beloved community just means drawing the circle wider and that's it. Because we need more than a piece of chalk to create deeply inclusive spaces. In looking for more detailed descriptions, I went to the King Center, which described the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King's vision of beloved community in this way. It is a global vision in which all people can share in the wealth of the earth. In the beloved community, poverty, hunger, and homelessness will not be tolerated because international standards of human decency will not allow it. Racism and all forms of discrimination, bigotry, and prejudice will be replaced by an all-inclusive spirit of sisterhood and brotherhood and siblinghood. In the beloved community, international disputes will be resolved by peaceful conflict resolution and reconciliation of adversaries instead of by military power. Love and trust will triumph over fear and hatred. Peace with justice will prevail over war and military conflict. Now, this vision for global beloved community is inspiring, but again, we need to zoom in a little more on the instructions to see what it might look like to build beloved community right where we are, right in, let's say, a Unitarian Universalist congregation. So I turned then to the words of present day Unitarian Universalist leaders, Alex Capitan and the Reverend Michael Slack, who are the organizers of the Transforming Hearts Collective, a group that works to educate people for radical inclusivity. They write, beloved community is when we say we, and we mean everyone. Beloved community doesn't presume commonality or a sense of being homogenous. Beloved community is not like-minded because we're not called to be like-minded in spiritual community. We're called to be like-hearted. And then they go on to point us toward a concrete and challenging step in building beloved community when they say, finally, beloved community is not devoid of conflict. When we avoid conflict in order to get along, we're not practicing beloved community because beloved community exists when we trust each other. We have the relationships, the strong enough relationships to actually disagree with each other, to be in conflict, even to risk hurting each other, and we can stay in relationship through those disagreements, through conflict, through potential hurt. These approaches can help us get closer to living in beloved community. Marla Scharf, a lifelong Unitarian Universalist, a biracial person who serves as a lay leader on the board of First Unitarian Church of San Jose, California, wrote this. In my vision of a beloved community, I see a dazzling, light-filled, breathtakingly beautiful mosaic, a gigantic, all-encompassing mosaic where each of us can see, can really see, and deeply appreciate each piece. We know that each piece is of immeasurable value. We know that each piece is part of a larger whole that would not be whole, indeed would not be, without each piece shining through and being seen and appreciated as its unique self. This movement toward beloved community involves a willingness to say over and over again, come in, come in, come into the circle. We have made space for you. We want you. We want what we share in common, and we want where we are different. Come in. And I'm going to give it over to Pete to sing about that.
Well, this song is called, appropriately, Everybody In. Everybody In. And it turns out there's also an opportunity for you all to sing. There's actually 3 songs in the songs that I'm singing today that have parts for you if you like to join in. So the chorus of the song is where I would suggest if you want to sing along, you join me. I'll sing it for you. It goes, everybody in, everybody in, everybody into the circle, circle, everybody, 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 everybody into the circle, circle. Okay, so that'll come up several times. Feel free to join me. Jesus spoke, entreating them to live together in a great circle of love. And when his followers asked him then who should be included, Jesus said, let everybody in, everybody in, everybody into the circle, circle. Everybody, 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 everybody into the circle, circle. Oligarchs, tyrants try to keep some in and everyone else outside, till revolution sweeps across the land and the people all stand. The common folk cry, let everybody in, everybody in, everybody into the circle, circle. Everybody, 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 everybody into the circle, circle. Sometimes a circle is a class or creed. Sometimes a circle is made of only men. Until Susan B. Anthony says, what about me? Let me in, let everybody in, everybody in, everybody into the circle, circle. Everybody, 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 everybody into the circle, circle. Sometimes a circle is a privileged thing, excluding people for the color of their skin. Till the voice of Martin Luther King says, let freedom ring, let them in, let everybody in, everybody in, everybody into the circle, circle. Everybody, 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 everybody into the circle, circle. Gay and straight, rich and poor, whole and broken, open up that door. The more we are, the greater we become. After all, we all are one. Bring in the people, but don't stop there. Bring in the fish in the sea, birds in the air. Bring in the rivers wide and the mountains tall. We go together or not at all. Let everybody in, everybody in, everybody into the circle, circle. Everybody, 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 everybody into the circle, circle. Everybody, everybody in, everybody into the circle, circle. Everybody, 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 everybody into the circle, circle.
So this vision of beloved community is pretty beautiful and also not easy. Henri Nouwen, a white man who was a Dutch Catholic priest, professor, writer, and theologian of the 20th century, wrote, "Community," and we might say beloved community, "is the place where the person you least want to live with always lives." That person is always in your community somewhere, and in the eyes of others, you might be that person. This is part of the challenge. Beloved community is not just drawing circles that bring people in and not just enjoying these dazzling mosaics of light. And in fact, it's not even just learning to take chances in relationship, learning to reveal our differences. It's not just working through disagreements. Sometimes beloved community requires us to go even further and deal with the really big systemic problems that can keep us apart. Lest you think that our universalist spiritual ancestors are the ones who have the most to teach about beloved community, I want to tell you a story now from our Unitarian side. This telling comes from a Tapestry of Faith curriculum. It is a condensed version of the story as told by Jessica York, a Black woman who serves as the director of congregational life staff in our Unitarian Universalist Association. She writes, "In 1948, most congregations and houses of worship in the United States were segregated by the color of their members' skin. Some were segregated by law, others by custom, or by a lack of actively trying to welcome and include all people. And the First Unitarian Society of Chicago was one of these congregations. Although their church was located in a neighborhood with many African American residents, only white people could join the church, according to the customs of the church culture and according to the written bylaws of the church at that time. But the day came when many members believed they needed to take real action against racism if they really wanted to live their values and their principles. The minister, the Reverend Leslie Pennington, was ready, prepared to take action, and so was a member of that congregation, Dr. James Luther Adams. Dr. Adams was a white man, a famous liberal theologian, and a social ethicist, a person who studies religion, beliefs, and values. He taught at Meadville Lombard Theological School, which at that time was right across the street from the First Unitarian Society of Chicago. And Dr. Adams was a member of the congregation's board of directors. He was a leader. So Reverend Pennington and Dr. Adams proposed a change in the church's bylaws, along with some other members. They said, it's time to desegregate the church. It's time to welcome people, whatever the color of their skin. We want to include, not exclude. They saw this as a way to put their love into action. And when the board considered the desegregation proposal, most board members supported it. However, one man on the board said, "Your new program is making desegregation into a creed. You are asking everyone in our church to say that they believe desegregating church is a good way to tackle racism. And what if some people don't believe this is the right way?" Now, in 1948, dealing with race was very controversial. And for some white people, even those who supported African Americans working for civil liberties, some white people still believed that a separate but equal policy was the thing to do. At this board meeting, lengthy, respectful debate ensued. Both sides felt in their hearts that their belief was right, and maybe they were so busy trying to be heard that they forgot to listen to each other. So they went on talking until the very early hours of the morning, and everyone on that board was exhausted and frustrated. And finally, James Luther Adams remembered that it would help to listen twice as much as he spoke. So he turned to the person who had voiced the strongest objection and said, "Will you tell me, what would you say is the purpose of this church?" Suddenly, everyone was listening. Everyone wanted to hear the answer to this crucial question. And probably this man who had objected was listening especially hard to his own heart and sorting through the words he had heard from other board members during the many hours of discussion. This board member, who had opposed opening the church to people of color, finally sighed and said, "Okay, Jim, the purpose of this church is to get hold of people like me and change them." And so the First Unitarian Society of Chicago successfully desegregated. Now, in some ways, we are a long way from these desegregation debates. And in other ways, we know there is still so much to do to become truly radically inclusive, to create beloved community within our congregations and in our larger world. As Unitarian Universalists, we do not have creeds. We don't require everyone to believe the same thing. What we have are covenants. We have agreements amongst each other about how we strive to act, about the commitments we aim to uphold. We have agreements that ask us to stretch ourselves and to grow together. And our largest covenant is the one that all the member congregations of the Unitarian Universalist Association hold together. This covenant is our 7 principles. Paula Cole-Jones, whose definition of beloved community we heard earlier, has worked with Unitarian Universalist congregations for more than 15 years. And her experience has been that UUs don't always connect the practices of our principles with the dream of beloved community. Her insight has been that lacking a principle that specifically names our commitment to dismantle systemic oppression, we can get stuck thinking about our individual actions, our individual preferences, our individual relationships. Because building beloved community is not only about our practice of being in relationship when we disagree. It's not only about figuring out how to accept someone who really bugs us. It is also about creating a culture that uproots the subtle and the systemic things that perpetuate oppression and injustice. It is about creating congregational cultures that help us keep moving closer to beloved community. So Paula Cole-Jones and others have started what is called the 8th Principle Project. This project proposes adding a new principle to the 7 we already have. And this is the language. It begins with the same preamble as our other principles. We, the member congregations of the Unitarian Universalist Association, covenant to affirm and promote our 7 current principles, and journeying towards spiritual wholeness by working to build a diverse, multicultural, beloved community by our actions that accountably dismantle racism and other oppressions in ourselves and our institutions. Beginning in May of 2017, UU congregations have been studying this principle and the practices it requires of us, and voting to adopt it. When you worship at the UU Church of the Restoration in Philadelphia, or the First UU Church of New Orleans, Louisiana, or the First Unitarian Church of Honolulu, Hawaii, or the UU Church of Annapolis, Maryland, or the Boise UU Fellowship in Idaho, or Beacon UU Church in Summit, New Jersey, or at Arlington Street Church, just north of us in Boston, or various others, you will find 8 principles in effect. Now, at this time, we are embarking as a national movement on a study of our principles because we are a living tradition. and our covenants are living documents. The covenant that holds our principles is contained in Article 2 of our national bylaws. And so the team undertaking the study has the somewhat dry name of the Article 2 Study Commission. At General Assembly on Zoom last June, the Article 2 Study Commission gathered input from many attendees, and they continue to work now, moving toward the 2022 General Assembly, when they will present their findings and recommendations about how best to articulate our shared covenant of principles for these times. In the meantime, every congregation has the opportunity to consider the 8th principle, and of course, to send delegates to GA to give input and eventually to vote on our national principles. This is something that our Universalist and our Unitarian heritage call us to. This work of describing the behaviors we want to practice to move us closer to the world we dream of. This place of beloved community and real justice and powerful transformation where the church gets hold of us and helps us to grow in our ability to embody love and to welcome more and more people in. We are called to get closer and closer to the place where these deep theological heritages, which today we describe as love and unity, are never shallow platitudes, but are always deep truths that we live out in each moment. This is what we mean when we talk about beloved community. It is not easy, but it is a worthy goal. And in the flashes when we glimpse it, oh, how beautiful it is.
Thank you, Monica, for those wonderful reflections. Here's a song in that same spirit called Sister Brother. Some of us have made it to the destination. Some of us are stranded on the road. Some of us are safe and sound when we lay our head down, and some of us are sleeping in the cold. There is fear that means to draw a line between us, saying we should stay on our own side. But there is also kindness rising up inside us, calling out across the great divide, singing we're one people, though we may be strangers, still we can be friends and neighbors, still we can be a family. We can call each other sister, brother, son and daughter, mother, father, and when we falter, join our hands and help each other stand. We can help each other. Some of us can chart a pathway through the darkness. Some of us cannot find the way. Some sit at a heavenly table set with plenty, and some of us go hungry every day. And all the while the heart knows we are in the same boat, and our many destinies are tied. In the worst of weather, we go down together, and at our best, together we rise, singing we're one people. Though we may be strangers, still we can be friends and neighbors. Still we can be a family. We can call each other sister, brother, son and daughter, mother, father. And when we falter, join our hands and help each other stand. We're one people, though we may be strangers, still we can be friends and neighbors. Still we can be a family. We can call each other sister, brother, son and daughter, mother, father. And when we falter, join our hands and help each other stand. We can help each other stand.
Thank you once more, Pete. We have two more songs coming up in short order. So I am just going to very briefly introduce the offering. This is the time in our service when we receive an offering for the work of this congregation. In the email order of service that you received this morning, there is information for giving online, using text to give, or the address for mailing a check to the church office. This is one simple practice that reminds us that we each bring what we have to share, and together we create something greater than the sum of its parts. That when we give what we are able to give, together we sustain the work of this congregation to bring more love and more justice into the world, to move us closer to beloved community. While you consider what giving option makes sense for you this morning, or simply soak in more of this beautiful music, I am going to pass it back over to Pete.
Here's a song I'll sing for you a cappella. It's in a completely different tuning, and so rather than inflict the tuning of the guitar onto you, I'll just keep a simple beat on my guitar and sing it for you a cappella. But this is a little song that I think resonates for me, especially during COVID time, when sometimes the best thing to do is just to get outside and feel the sky above my head and breathe the fresh air, connect with things other than the news, which sometimes isn't good for the soul. So this is called Beauty of the World. If you look to the daily news so that you can stay attuned to what matters, you might find that headlines don't describe the beauty of the world. So if you hang your head straight out of bed because you read the doom and gloom and got discouraged, ignore your computer screen and look to see the beauty of the world. Beauty like the sun coming down, beauty like the seed in the ground, rising and reaching out, reaching for the sky. Beauty like the life in the land, moving in your own two hands. Beauty like the wondrous chance to be alive. If you're down to your final dime and can't decide what else to buy to be happy, you don't need a credit card to give your heart the beauty of the world. And if you walk the street with tired feet, bending underneath the grief that you carry, lay the weight you brought along down upon the beauty of the world. Beauty like the wind in the trees, beauty like children's dreams, beauty like the sound of steeple bells when they ring. Beauty like ties that bind us, beauty like acts of kindness, beauty like the light inside of everything. Beauty like the sun come down, beauty like the seed in the ground, rising and reaching out, reaching for the sky. Beauty like the life in the land, moving in your own two hands. Beauty like the wondrous chance to be alive. If your whole shtick is tragic hip, but you are sick of being such a big cynic, you can try out a joyful shout and sing about the beauty of the world. And if you don't like to have to wait and think your chances aren't great to get to heaven, maybe one way to save your soul is get to know the beauty of the world. Get to know the beauty of the world. Get to know the beauty of the world.
Applause hands again. I'm going to invite you all to join with me in extinguishing a chalice, if you have one lit, with these words from the Reverend Mark Mosher DeWolf. With what benediction shall I leave you? This: in your life may you know the holy meaning, the mystery that breaks into it every moment. May you live at peace with your world and at peace with yourself, and may love and truth guide you in your everyday. Amen. Pete has a closing song for us this morning.
And again, an opportunity for you all to sing. So this song is called Turn Me Earth. Turn Me Earth. We human beings, for most of our lives on this planet, did not know that we are on a planet. Now we know this. It's not an intuitive thing. We can't feel the earth moving, but it is indeed true. We know this to be true for a fact. And so now I think it's our job to simply remember it, remind ourselves of it, and celebrate it. And so that's what this song is about, celebrating the turning earth. We are turning right now together, all of us, at about 900 miles an hour around the axis of the planet. Turning, making day and night over and over again. 900 miles an hour. Not only that, but we are traveling around our sun, which we know now is a star, and we are traveling around our local star, our sun, our beloved sun, at around 67,000 miles an hour, making a year after year after year, and we count them, don't we? We count our years, and we're grateful for every one of them, every trip around this wonderful sun of ours. So, here's a song called Turn Me Earth, and your part is twofold. First of all, on the verses, I would like you to sing every other line. So my lines change, but your lines there are two of them, and they stay the same throughout the song. So, for example, I sing, Turn me earth to a new sunrise, and you sing, Turn me into the light of morning. And I sing, turn me earth when I close my eyes. And you sing, turn me into the night. Let's try that. Turn me earth to a new sunrise. Turn me into the light of morning. Turn me earth when I close my eyes. Turn me into the night. That's it. So on the verses, those are your lines. And then on the chorus goes like this, and I'd like us to sing it together. It goes like this. Turn me, turn me, turn me into the morning light. Turn me, turn me, turn me into the night. Let's try it. Turn me, turn me, turn me into the morning light. Turn me, turn me, turn me into the night. That's it. Let's sing together. Turn me, earth, to a new sunrise. Turn me into the light of morn. Turn me, earth, when I close my eyes. Turn me into the night. Turn me, earth, to blackbirds trill. Turn me into the light of morn. Round again to the whippoorwill. Turn me into the night. Turn me, turn me, turn me into the morning light. Turn me, turn me, turn me into the night again. Turn me, turn me, turn me into the morning light. Turn me, turn me, turn me into the night. And as you're spinning light and dark, turn me into the light of morn. Turn me, earth, around your star. Turn me into the night. Through the seasons we will go. Turn me into the light of morn. Summer rain and winter snow. Turn me into the night. Turn me, turn me, turn me into the morning light. Turn me, turn me, turn me into the night. Turn me, turn me, turn me into the morning light. Turn me, turn me, turn me into the night. Mother Earth, your child I am. Turn me into the light of morn. I was born for this dance. Turn me into the night. Round and around the sun we fly. Turn me into the light of morn. Thank you for this life. Turn me into the light. Turn me, turn me, turn me into the morning light. Turn me, turn me, turn me into the night. Turn me, turn me, turn me into the morning light. Turn me, turn me, turn me into the night. 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 Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Pete. I'm going to stop the recording now.